I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. What Jesus said. Now we're no longer in the Easter Day encounters with Jesus and his disciples. But instead we're now on a trek of what is Jesus saying about himself. About who Jesus is for us. Now previous to this passage, Jesus says he is the gate. And today we hear him say he is the good shepherd. Not just any shepherd, but the good shepherd. And if you haven't figured it out yet, today it's called the Good Shepherd Sunday. Now it is a little strange that Jesus chose an image for himself of that of a shepherd. Because shepherds in first century Palestine were not looked upon as good in any way. They were considered scum. They were considered outcasts, right there with thieves. As some people today have who they consider scums and equal to thieves. Maybe migrant farm workers, perhaps, in our own day. But many groups have other groups that they look down upon. Shepherds were looked highly upon during those first century Palestinian days because they spent most of their time in the wilderness, driving their sheep over land that didn't belong to them. And you know how territorial we get. So no, shepherds were definitely outsiders. And this is the image that Jesus chose to get his point across to us as his role in our lives. The Good Shepherd knows each and every one of his sheep, and they know him. The Good Shepherd will not abandon even one of his flock. The Good Shepherd will not run away in face of danger, as does the hired hand, who is only there for money. Now, if I said that the shepherds were driving their flock on land that didn't belong to them, I was wrong. You do not drive sheep. Now I know that by looking at me and my porcelain hands and features that you may not think that I ever did any farm work. But I did do some farm work. And one of the things I did was to drive cattle. Not drive cattle, but drive cattle. Drive cattle from one field to the other on my dad's farm. I was a master at driving cattle. I knew where the sweet spot was behind the herd. There's a sweet spot. You get there and they see you, they move forward, but they don't try to break the herd. You're just at the right distance, just at the right place. But sheep, on the other hand, are not driven, but led by the shepherd. If they do indeed know the shepherd. If the shepherd tries to drive the sheep from behind, the sheep scatter and circle back around to get behind the shepherd. Because the sheep look to the shepherd and know the shepherd as a sign of it's safe ahead to go forward. Now cattle are pretty dumb and don't lead well at all. But sheep are not that dumb. The false accusation perpetrated by cattle ranchers that sheep were dumb was just that, a false accusation. But many of us in our society today don't like to hear ourselves being compared to sheep, a flock. Perhaps because of the perceived lack of intelligence of sheep. Or maybe it's because of the sheep being passive creatures. So they don't like to be compared to sheep. But being compared to a cow isn't any better. Jesus is the Good Shepherd. Your priests are not the Good Shepherd. Priests might be the lead sheep, but we are all sheep. We are all sheep in this flock, and we look to Christ as the shepherd, the Good Shepherd, as the model, as our protector. And in our present society, and in fact in any American society that existed since the Europeans landed here, being a sheep was never a desire. Americans have always cherished that rugged individualism, the spirit of going it alone, never asking for help, doing it all by ourselves. That perception that American males, mostly, maybe a few females, won't ask for directions, that's true. It is. It's true. I mean, we feel that if we ask for directions to some person, that they're going to know we're vulnerable, because we don't know where we are. And we don't like being vulnerable. Americans don't like being vulnerable. It seems that all the traits that Americans cherish lead to isolation, loneliness, separation, neurotic tendencies and episodes. All of those traits that we cherish as Americans, don't they tend to be just like the complete opposite of what a Christian is called to be? We don't like vulnerability. Americans don't like being vulnerable. I never have. Jesus, on the other hand, requires us to be vulnerable. It is a requirement. Jesus requires vulnerability in individuals and in communities. Jesus requires us to take a risk from time to time, because growth, true, deep, meaningful spiritual growth, moving forward on our journey to unite with God, rarely, if ever, happens by always going with the sure thing. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, offers us an alternative to our neuroses and fears through being vulnerable. The Good Shepherd leads us by still waters and over rugged mountains to get us where we need to be. So give up the mood and take up the Bible. Amen.